Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of WordPress Campus. I hope you had fun in Buffalo exploring last night for dinner. Before I introduce Travis, I have kind of a housekeeping announcement. If anybody ordered a t-shirt with your registration and you need a new size, they're going to be exchanging them at the desk. And they have some extra shirts. So if you didn't order a t-shirt and you see some people wearing one and you'd like one, you can get one. Okay. All right, well, I'm here to introduce Travis. Travis Tots is an award-winning designer with a passion for creating profoundly usable web experiences. He began using WordPress over 10 years ago and has never looked back. His intentionality and empathetic leadership skills have shaped him personally and professionally, guiding him through the journey of WordPress entrepreneurship and a long history of successful client projects all over the globe. As senior web strategist and director of new business for Monotribe, Travis focuses on being intentional each day, being inspired by the talented team he surrounds himself with, and contributing a high level of strategic energy to large-scale client projects. So welcome, Travis. And,
Thanks. I always think it's, thank you. I always think it's so weird to hear somebody else say what I wrote for a while. But it's cool, it's fun. I hope everybody's doing well today. At least we got the room with the windows, right? The other ones don't. But I'm going to be talking about page builders today. So not super technical. So if anybody has a different talk that's super technical at this time, I take no offense. If you want to go somewhere else. What I want to kind of talk to you guys about is different tools that are possible to use on WordPress page builders. A little bit about myself, from myself. I consider myself a traveler. In fact, in 2014, my wife and I sold all of our belongings except for a small handful of clothing, including our house and furniture and everything you can think of. We bought an Airstream and we traveled the country for a year. I think that life is about experiences. I think that life is more fun, worth living, and exciting when you can have those experiences. The one thing that's lovely about Monotribe is it allows us to kind of live those experiences. So traveling is something I'm really passionate about. And I always say if you have the opportunity to travel, you should take it. I co-run a WordPress theme shop, Press75, where we sell WordPress themes and plugins. Pretty standard stuff. We actually do have a page builder plugin we call Long Form Story Builder. It was our attempt at trying to build a tool to allow you to build things like Snowfall. It didn't quite get to Snowfall level, but it is kind of cool and fun to kind of see and experience. And I am also a senior web strategist at Monotribe, where I do get to work with really cool clients all across the world, and staff members and team members all across the world as well. At Tribe, I think this will probably end up in some of my text. I'm going to see if I can move it a little bit. Let's see. No, I don't know if I can. But at Tribe, we really kind of embody being a culture of happy, helpful, curious, and accountable. People that work with us kind of get to experience that. We have fun doing what we do. In fact, we have a mantra that says live well and do good work. It's how we kind of think about projects, think about challenges, think about how to move client projects forward. And we get to work with each other, and like I said, we've got 85 people now across 45 cities and 9 countries. So definitely a widely distributed team, separated by thousands and thousands of miles, where we get to work on some pretty cool stuff together. And then once a year, we actually get to go and be in the same place for a week. We get to hang out together, we get to work together, we get to work in close quarters, and it's really fun because other times of the year we're separated by our computer screens and thousands of miles, right? So that was me missing probably the easiest pool shot ever. But you know, we do get to have fun together, and we really enjoy these experiences because it allows us that kind of experience of working together. A lot of you, I'm sure, are probably not distributed, so you work together with your colleagues and coworkers in the same space or in the same spaces. But at Monotribe, we don't, and this allows us that one kind of time of year to really dig deep and do some fun stuff, but also work really hard together, right? That's very ex-British military, but you can actually see that video and learn a little bit more about those trips on our blog. These are some of our clients. As you can see, like any agency that shows a client wall, we work with a lot of amazing people, but this is just a small smattering, right? We work with large and small businesses, large and small institutions, and we have a lot of fun kind of building stuff for a lot of these institutions and brands as well. To kind of give you an idea of the type of stuff that we do build, I kind of wanted to just share with you guys some stuff that we've kind of recently been working on, some things that have recently launched, some things within higher education. This is a bicentennial site for Harvard Law School. If you want to know anything else about this project, you can actually ask Keith. Keith is here. Stanford 125, which is actually the 125th anniversary of Stanford as well. We just so happen to work with Stanford and Harvard. I always kind of think maybe the East Coast versus the West Coast should have maybe like a arm wrestle or something. But we, like I said, a lot of these things kind of give us the experience to build unique things. And actually what you're seeing are a lot of projects, and not just higher education projects, right? But a lot of these projects are actually built on a page builder tool. And our page builder tool at Monotribe actually uses what we call panels, or panel builder. Panel builder is kind of our custom solution for page building. So I'll just keep this up here for a second. We'll actually revisit this a little bit later on. But panels kind of came to fruition after we continued working with different clients in different industries that had unique needs around content and content creation, right? People that wanted to control more of the content outside of standard page templates. So what you're seeing, this is all built within WordPress, inside the ecosystem of WordPress, but it's built custom on top. And what we wanted to do was provide and build a solution that allowed us to kind of control the design and look and feel of what was actually being viewed, but actually give a lot of the content control and creation tools to our clients on the back end of WordPress. And I'll go through a lot more of these tools, but I think the goal with any page builder tool is really to give more control within WordPress, right? The idea is to provide a unique content creation experience outside of your standard templates. So digging in, I mean, a little bit more about page builders and their dilemma, I think is really why I'm here to talk to you guys about it today, right? And so I mean, I think as designers or people that are working in higher education or people in general, I mean, how many times have you worked on a project and heard we need to add the course catalog to the site today, right? Or we need to add a huge hero slider to this page right now. Or we need to add admissions registration to the site today. Or we need to add these categories using layout A, these using layout B, these using a combo of A and B. And we need 5 categories every 6 months using different layouts for A, B, and C, right? The idea here is to give you a kind of a view of the types of things that you might run into, right? The types of questions and pushing back from content creators or content entry individuals that are working on the site. And a lot of what that problem is, a lot of that dilemma actually comes down to templates being difficult for that model, right? So as clients, how do we efficiently and effectively use those tools that our vendors can build for us? How do we kind of find the right tool and utilize it properly within our organization and institution? And as the vendor, as the designers, as the builders, how do we build on top of these page builder tools? And there's many, right? How do we choose the right one, and how do we build on top of them while making it easy for our clients, right? How do we do that? So the amalgamation of those two things is really kind of the biggest challenge around page builders. And it's challenging within the WordPress templating structure because they encourage a waterfall approach to content, right? They encourage the design to be done, then the content. They encourage an idea of waterfall approach that is difficult when you think about changing something, like those other requests, like adding a huge hero image of student life to a current student's page, maybe not built into the template, so it makes it difficult to kind of rethink that after that. And the content strategy, kind of similar to the first point, is really subject to that development process. Content strategies should be thought about first, right? Content is king. Content should be before design, but all too often, especially in institutions, at least working with many of them at Monotribe, we find that content comes after the fact. And that it is difficult to think about. So that's one of the reasons we actually tried to build and did build panels around that model to allow flexibility in the future so that our clients can kind of come back in later and revise layouts, change position of images, change float right, float left, change how many columns the text you have in a WYSIWYG text area. So, and that's that idea, right? Content now in a templated structure is limited to those standard areas. It's limited to those content boxes. And rich relationships are difficult to communicate as well. So what I mean by that is it's really difficult in a standard template structure to say, I want to pull in posts on this page that are related to my staff faculty. Or I've got a course catalog and a custom post type for my staff and faculty, and I want to relate them. I want my courses to display the faculty that are teaching every semester, or vice versa. On staff's single page, on an individual person's page, I want to display which courses they're teaching. That's really difficult to do in a standard page template structure, at least in a dynamic way, right? And the last point, it distances the creators from the users. So when you're creating content, you're actually not seeing what you're creating, right? You're viewing something on the back end of WordPress. You're entering text within a field or something like that. And it's really difficult to actually see what you're seeing on the front end, except publishing the page, refreshing the page, seeing the changes, and going back to the template, changing your text, and continual process, right? So the idea is,
Sorry,
yeah.
What was the third one again? Content. Let's standard something.
Let's go back. Content is limited to kind of standard WYSIWYG or standard boxes in that current model, the current model of template structure with WordPress. So all those points kind of combined, right? I say death to the template. I say, or at least templated thinking, right? I think we have to think about how do we get outside of this mindset of WordPress producing templates? And the only way is page builders. The only way is to find the solution that works within your organization for building a page or a template yourself so that it creates something on the front end of the site and works well. So enter the page builder tools, right? That's really what I want to talk to you guys about. The idea of different options so that, hopefully some of these options can give you guys some ideas. Hopefully you've probably heard of some of them. We'll kind of maybe talk about pros and cons of them, right? So what is a page builder tool? I mean, I think to start with, we should understand what it is and what it isn't. Many of us may be thinking in the standard templated page structure and the standard WordPress environment. But a page builder tool, solution, plugin, piece of software, code base, it really is a solution that helps individuals with various skill sets create content. It allows them this content creation model that you see here today or on this kind of panels video here. And it creates a solution that is easier for producing pages on the front end site or producing content in a model that is not about creating a template and being stuck with what you have in that template. ultimate flexibility, right? That's kind of the idea of what we want to produce within a page builder tool. What about higher education? I mean, I think that there's definitely a need, at least what we've found, to have some really easy tools for content creation. A lot of you are either working at an institution or working for institutions, and I'm sure you've seen this request. You've seen this request from content creators. If you're in IT or marketing or communications, you've seen this request from student interns that are working on content creation on the site. But we've all kind of seen how some of these tools can turn out, right? Oftentimes they look like, and the way I see it, I think there are two things to really think about when it comes to page builder tools, right? When it comes to page builder tools, the two things I think that I want to cover today, at least, or at least what I think are important to think about when you start thinking about what to use, are how to choose the right tool, which kind of just boils down to what's best for you as an organization, what makes sense for content creation, what makes sense for your users, what makes sense for whoever's creating content in a way that makes it intuitive for them to do so. And how do we give the appropriate amount of control to the end user? How do we allow them the proper control so that we don't end up with things like this? And again, that look like that. So the tools, I think, to start with, what we want to do, if we're going to think of that model, like choosing the right tool, the best way to do so is to kind of look at what the tools are and what they do and what they don't do. ACF is a tool. First, let me ask, like, who here has used page builder tools? Nice, that's a pretty good amount. Who here has a tool that they really, really like, that they'd be willing to name? Yeah.
I did.
Okay.
We use content blocks from another vendor channel.
Okay, cool.
ACF?
Yep.
ACF here.
So, yep.
Use toolset now is a development on ACF, and it has its own page
Nice.
It's WP Campus.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we explored, we even built it, but it was kind of, no, this would be easy.
Yeah. Yeah, and here's the thing.
I like
it. And here's the thing, like, this whole talk is kind of predicated on giving you guys information, allowing you to obviously make whatever decision is best for you to work for or work with. Because there's a lot. I mean, obviously, there's people here today that have used a lot of page builders, which is awesome. Because what I'm seeing is more institutions are adopting this method of content creation, which I think is really important. As someone that works within higher education and other institutions as well, other brands, page builders, I think, are where we want to go, right? And I'll cover that a little bit later. But to dig into ACF, I mean, ACF is a unique tool, right? ACF isn't really a page builder necessarily. What it is like a custom meta builder. But there's some pros to that. I think that I'll cover in a little bit. But it's kind of what I call a hybrid builder tool. I'll tell you why in a sec. But ACF is an incredibly powerful tool if anybody hasn't used it. And it fills the role of making it easy to create unique custom meta fields within the backend of WordPress or the dashboard of WordPress. And custom fields, repeaters, galleries, custom options, settings, stuff like that, and a load of other third-party tools. ACF has kind of built its own marketplace, if you will, of third-party tools similar to Gravity Forms on the form building side. That's actually really pretty impressive. And you can kind of see how it's modeled, right? You're still seeing the dashboard of WordPress. You're seeing what you might see if you're editing a page on the back end of WordPress. But the other option, or the other thing that we see, is custom fields, so that you can actually define what it actually ends up looking like on the front end. So the front end could actually look however you want it to look. It looks like the design that you create, right? And it could look rigid. While I don't mean that disrespectful, this is actually our work. But we did build it partially on ACF. And rigidity is sometimes good, right? Rigidity allows you to define specific regions that users have control over, and users can edit and change, right? So in this method, something like this title is a field. So they enter the title on the back end of the dashboard WordPress. This is an excerpt. This is a custom image. This is a tooltip. And some of these, you can check out the site. Some of these have multiple tooltips. Those are difficult to do within a standard page builder model, right? Because you have to define a location in the code on an image, and then there's difficulty in that, at least in this current model of page builders. But ACF kind of allows you to do those things in a rigidity model that actually works really well. So some pros, and I won't go through all of these. You guys can look at them, and you can check out these slides later. I'll post them for you guys. But it's pretty simple to implement. But it's also very developer friendly and not very standard user friendly. So if you're at an institution and you don't have a developer to implement a solution like ACF, it actually becomes pretty difficult to do because you have to define a lot of stuff in the code. While the hooks and loops and stuff like that of ACF are really easy to implement from a developer side of things. It's kind of difficult if you don't have the tools to do so, don't have the tools to have the code. So some cons. Like I said, kind of super friendly for non-developers to pick up. The setup and dev time can kind of be long. Like if you're looking at a tool like Beaver Builder or Divi or something like that, it's pretty easy. Purchase a theme or plugin, you install, and you can kind of start playing around. This is obviously much more implementation focused. And some similar tools. I think I'll cover the base level of some of the different types of tools today, but there are many different types of tools in each one of these categories that I think are important to kind of check out. Pods is one, CMV2 and pickle are kind of similar, pretty similar. Anybody use any of those three? Yeah, did you like it?
Well, I've seen it like demoed a bunch of times. I've tried it out a little bit. They're based in New York, right?
Nice.
Where I am.
Yeah.
WordPress.
Oh, cool. I've actually never used it, but I've heard good things about it.
I think we're using CMV2. We have Aesop story engine layered onto CMV2 for a magazine.
Nice.
I'm hoping to get that folded into our root site using a better page builder tool we can have available for more people. That's the problem. Is you get a one-off theme that uses these things, and everyone that's using your core theme wants those features.
Yep. Oh, for sure, man. I mean, that's kind of the beauty and the difficulty of page building, right? So let's keep moving forward. Gutenberg, if anybody hasn't heard about Gutenberg yet, it's Automatic's or WordPress solution for page builders. It's unique. It's not super powerful yet. It's a plugin. I probably wouldn't doubt seeing this in core in the future. And I think what you kind of see here is it's great content creation, text creation, image editing, post creation. It's great. It's pretty powerful when it comes to that stuff. It allows it on the front end. It allows it in a model that seems to make sense. It has some portable reviews on WordPress.org plugin repository. I installed it. I am not seriously super used to using tools like that because I'm really used to using other tools. ACF we use a lot, and obviously our panel builder. I don't think it does a horrible job though for the standard user. I think it could be a nice solution. It could be a nice solution for those types of things. And I think what it's trying to do is make kind of the content creation of posts and pages easier for the standard user, right? So this tool is a little bit unique, I think, in its methodology. But the current visual editor in WordPress, TinyMCE, it requires a lot of utilization of shortcodes, stuff like that, right? You'll see in some of these tools, I think on the previous slide, there's options to do different creation of those content blocks in models, I think, that work quite a bit better than TinyMCE, especially when you're looking at stuff like this. Moving content blocks up and down, deleting all this stuff on the front end might actually be nice. Has anybody used it and just hated it? Anybody installed it and been like, this is terrible? Yeah.
Yeah, I hate it because it's moving, it's moving, especially the idea that it's coming in 5.0. Because it's changing, it's not writing.
Yeah.
It's design.
Yeah.
And my job is I power up thousands of students, some of whom are in developmental writing.
Yep.
And they become publishers because they have their own WordPress site. And this is going to be an effing nightmare.
Yeah, I can imagine that being really tough. This is a tool, I think, that...
The current thing, they understand. It looks like everything else they've ever written.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you look at, and I don't know how they'll implement, obviously, in a future version of WordPress, but I imagine it's something of a hybrid, like allowing this on the front end, but also allowing content creation in the standard WYSIWYG editor. I don't know. We'll never know, because obviously if they're looking to replace TinyMCE, tough thing to do if you're going to roll out something like this. But the front end of this can kind of look, I mean, this is their demo site, right? And allows you to kind of play with it. But, it kind of can look however you want it to look as well when it comes to standard image text stuff, right? The options for fluidity and a lot of those things that we see in page builders with drag and drop and the ability to kind of move stuff around is obviously not part of Gutenberg. It's not, I don't think, meant to be that. But when you think about how it will relate to those other tools, that's where I get a little nervous, right? Like I start thinking about, what the gentleman said back there. I mean, I think how do we kind of create a tool that isn't something to everybody, but allows the flexibility for unique tools, which I think WordPress actually does a good job of now. I think Gutenberg actually does a good job of creating a medium. Medium.com is a publishing tool if anybody's used it, if anybody's publishing on it. I think what they're trying to do is duplicate exactly what Medium has done, right? Some cons. Obviously, it's still in beta. Creating some horrible layouts might be a certain con. And there's actually quite a bit of accessibility concerns, which I am actually really scared about. Yeah.
I'm really sure. I mean, I totally appreciate the flexibility and the fact that you can freestyle things. Do these tools have the ability to put in certain constraints where you're trying to maintain branding, continuity of look and feel across numerous sites? Because it seems like people can, especially in the educational world.
Oh yeah.
Every department kind of wants to do its own thing.
For sure. That's the difficulty in choosing a tool, which I'll cover in a little bit, but for sure, that's one of the biggest concerns I think about page builder tools, which is actually one of the main reasons we build Panel Builder. We control the design before we actually build the panels, before we actually build the code, but we allow the settings and the options to control things that we've defined with our clients, which actually I think is probably one of the most beautiful things with page builders. I think there's some options within things like Beaver Builder. You can do the pro version, and you can remove branding, and you can brand it whatever your institution is, and then you can lock down specific content creation tools for specific users or on specific pages, right? So things like that, I think, are what I think is probably the future of page building. But similar tools to Gutenberg, I mean, not really. I mean, I think medium.com probably. So enter the last one I'll talk about because it's Divi is something you love, something many people actually love. It has hundreds of thousands of views, actually, hundreds of thousands of people using it. Excuse me, it's massively powerful. I've seen beautiful sites built on Divi. I've seen horrible sites built on Divi. But that's not just Divi's fault. It's actually the fault of many different page builders, right?
I want to build a beautiful one.
Good. Nice. And it kind of comes back down to your question, right? Like, how do you do this, especially at an institutional level, that makes sense so that the rogue art department from Yale, no offense, Yale, anybody's listening on the live stream, doesn't create something like we saw before. It's tough, right? And I think there's options and there's ideas to do it, but it does kind of come down to locking content creation tools, right? It comes down to creating a set of tools, and we call them panels. So like Harvard and Stanford MX school, CUNY schools, people that are using our panel builder tool, we lock down specific panels for specific users many times. We'll actually go through a design process that is focused around panels that allows us to dig down in deep into what we can build for our clients and then actually build and design those tools around what they actually will use, what we know that they can create, right? But here's some cool things to give you. I mean, I think what you see are pretty powerful options. I mean, things like sizing images drastically, right? And obviously that can be dangerous if somebody uploads a smaller image and they start creating a 4,000 pixel tall image. Those things get tough. But I think what's cool is like there's 46, I think, or 40 some different modules as part of Divi. You can actually choose the ones that you want to use. You actually can only say you want 4 on a page. You just want someone to be able to use 4. You can do that at an institutional level, so that it makes content creation easier. This is a different view of kind of their drag and drop functionality. You're probably more familiar with this than I am, but my understanding is some of these tools allow not only content creation on the front end or content editing in a builder mode on the front end, but the back end actually allows kind of some more different options, right? Stuff like this that you see, like duplicate this model. That's super awesome. Like you were kind of mentioning Beaver Builder, and there's kind of some difficulties in Beaver Builder and Visual Composer on duplicating content sets, right? Panel Builder, we allow that because we know that our clients are going to create a template, if you will, a panel template for a page or a post even. They want to reuse that. They want to reuse that for many other pages. So that's something that's really important. I'm assuming maybe you probably have something like that. Or yeah.
Well, it's just, I was thinking there's a difference between a content developer, like content focused people versus the content designer. I think Divi is focused around people who are designing the content. Yep. Versus those who are writing.
Yep. For sure. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and to show some things, I mean, you can see like Divi, you can create beautiful things. Panel Builder, this is all built, this is Stanford Law School, right? This is all built on prompts. Which page builder tools can really create some really cool stuff. This is another project that we did for a HGTV celebrity in Australia, but she is creating an LMS on WordPress. All of those components, all of those LMS components, we actually built within so that they can create an LMS for those people that are learning how to like redecorate their home and stuff like that, and actually use panels to actually build all of that stuff. And this is Harvard Law School site, and this is all built on panels as well. And of course, like you see, we've got large hero images. There's full control over all that stuff within the back end WordPress, right? Within the content creation tools that we built. I think some pros, and I want to keep going so that we have some time for questions, but some pros are definitely there with tools like Divi or other page builder tools. They're powerful. It's well designed. The interface is actually really well designed. Color coding of a lot of those things is pretty neat. Some cons. Certainly, and this doesn't just apply, like I said, to Divi, but there are cons to using a tool that's ultimately flexible, right? Similar to what you talked about. Similar tools, I think we've talked about most of these. Elementor is one that I found doing research for this talk. I never used it before doing research for. I think it's actually fairly young in the space. Elementor. Oh, no. Let's see. I think that was so how to choose between these tools. I kind of just want to fly through these points so that we have time for any questions or dialogue. But I think it comes down to a lot of the stuff we've talked about. Clickable tool set, theme versus plugin, that's a big thing, right? If you're using a theme, if you're using like Divi has a theme and a plugin, if you're using using a theme, you're kind of locked down to that theme, right? But if you're using a plugin, if you're using something like ACF, you can actually, fairly easy copy over your code snippets into a different system or different code-based theme. So it kind of allows a little bit easier migration to a different design or a different solution. Right? Ease of use is huge. When we think about how to look at these things, the ACF is definitely more focused on the editing, still on the dashboard of WordPress in the back end. That allows that rigidity on the front end, so you kind of lock down a lot of stuff. Technical support, I added here because I think it is important. I think some of these tools have a larger adoption, hence more money, hence more staff, right? So if you have something that is easier to technically support, you're probably going to get more staff. And giving the right amount of content control, I think it's really a balancing act. It's difficult, right? I mean, we've talked about it. Many people have kind of brought it up. It comes down to, I think, tool set capabilities. So does the tool set have the ability to lock down content creation? Can you lock down specific modules for specific users even? Which is really the next point. User roles and privileges kind of comes down to a big point of this, right? We've built pretty robust user controls so that our clients can allow certain groups controls of content, certain groups controls of panels, certain groups can use this panel but can't use that panel, because we want to allow, like, whoever's in control of the future students page, a lot of flexibility, right? They have the control over kind of seeing heat maps and analytics and things that people are clicking on. Those people need flexibility to move the tools up and down, change images frequently, maybe pull in like rich content, like you said before. Maybe they want to relate, or they want to pull in all news that's related to future students but not current students. That all happens on the back end of WordPress, of course, with taxonomies and stuff, but we can allow that with page builder tools so that they can pull in just those posts for future students, which is kind of flexible and nice. Training and support, of course, I'll mention here, but where are we going? I mean, where are we going? I mean, there's a lot of options, right? There's a lot of things happening within page builder tools. There's a lot of cool things that are being created when it comes to those tools for institutions, for many clients. But I mean, with our last few minutes, I'd rather cover some questions. So thank you guys. Like, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's @TravisTots. If you want to check out Tribe, it's tri.me. We work with a lot of higher ed institutions. We have a lot of fun. You saw that we went to Nicaragua this year. We like to have fun, but also do good work. So thank you guys. How can I facilitate some conversation? Questions?
Actually, you had a question first, but I'd like the next question.
Yeah, wait.
Thank you. I was wondering, with the impending release of WordPress 5 and Gutenberg, we have several very customized sites that use like plugins and things similar to that. And you brought up a point about control, and to me, the first thing I do is I disable the CSS customizer.
Yep.
Because our faculty, they'll want something like pretty wild and amazing, but it can't do it with that customizer. And they go in and, I just want to change this to blue. It's not like that. So I'm wondering about all of these apps, like what's going to happen with ACF and things like when WordPress 5 comes out. Are they going to have to try to make themselves compatible with whatever changes are done to 5, like override stuff? It does kind of concern me what the future is of all of our custom stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So for anybody that's on live stream, Leah asked what kind of is the future of tools like ACF or Divi or any page builder tool with the impending release of 5.0 or whenever Gutenberg might hit actual core, right? That's a tough question to answer. I wish I knew. I would say that I don't think, this may be a bold statement, I don't think that the .org team has the propensity to completely remove what we're used to in a next release. Because it would be devastating, right? It would be devastating. And that's why you see a lot of this stuff happening, I think, with core, that tends to be releases of new functionality that may get removed or may like be in the background somewhere in a future release because people aren't like using that tool set, right? Which maybe that's what happens with Gutenberg because it doesn't get adoption, which I don't know if many of us would care. I think many of us would prefer that method. It seems like that. Yeah, that was my 2 cents, but you never know, right? Like,
So I just want to share, so we've adopted Page Builder, as I mentioned.
Yep.
And the solution we came up with, which I thought worked pretty elegant, is we hooked in, we have a settings toggle, so you can set the site to either default to the Page Builder or default to the standard editor. And then when you create a new page, usually we default to the standard editor. You create a new page, they've got the TinyMC editor they know and love. If they want it to be a special page with a layout, they click a button on that page, and that flips it to be a page that uses the content blocks in our case, where they can arrange things and all that. And that has really helped adoption because then people that are just intimidated by the design aspect, they just want to get their text on the page. There you go, and just use a template that has a sidebar so the text isn't all the way across.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Mike's point, live stream again, was the ability to kind of set almost templates, we'll call them, to allow people still the content creation tools when it comes to a page builder, but giving them flexibility to do what they want when they duplicate or use something like that. We actually do the same thing with Panel Builder. We allow panel sets to be saved. Those panel sets can be reused on any page and then, of course, play with and users can change them, use them, move them around, or we can actually lock them down to, like if you don't want a user to be able to drag and drop or move panels up and down or content blocks that you're using, we kind of lock that stuff down. It's still a templated model, but it gives the idea of a front-end editor and still the flexibility to do things like pulling content from your editors to the site or build unique sliders or modules and stuff like that. So for sure, good point. Like anybody else? Yeah.
I'd like to share this off with people at home who aren't listening on live stream. You have a link to it. I see a link to you.
Yes, I have not uploaded it yet. I did my finishing touches on it, but I will tweet it out right after this. And I will I'll give you a link. It'll be m.tribe, m.tri.be /builders dilemma. So that won't be live yet, but I will make sure that's the URL. m.tri.be /builders dilemma. One word.
Okay, what would be your recommendation for approach with the following constraints?
Got it. Yeah.
Because to keep in mind, my challenge is I'm basically the host for what are hundreds, soon to be thousands of student and faculty sites, and they take ownership of the sites.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the whole opposite of what most of the folks here are dealing with. We're trying to make sure we got the control of branding and stuff in the school.
Yep.
I don't give a crap. The folks make their sites. But what I need is I want to provide them an option that gets them some builderish capabilities.
Yep.
It needs to be free.
Okay.
We've had a bad experience with the whole lock-in stuff because I got to give them the capability to switch themes without blowing things up. Which things like Divi and it's. So any option. I mean, actually, I'm kind of wondering Gutenberg might be the option if I can have TinyMCE as the default, and then
Well, what you have now, if you use the question anyone in live stream was how to create a method for your institution, which has the challenge of allowing people some flexibility when it comes to creating their site, allowing them different themes to use or different, kind of different styles. You're not worried about branding. You're worried about them creating their own content in a subdomain or a multi-site or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And you want flexibility, but not too much flexibility.
Right.
And the ability to move and change themes. That's a tough one. I mean,
flexibility. I just don't want them to get so far deep in over their heads.
Yeah. So I think that there's a couple things. Do you mind if I ask, mainly publishing? Is it mainly news? Is it mainly posts? Or is it anything on the site? Is it creating like landing pages and stuff like that, or is it
No,
more
yeah, it's
journalistic?
It starts out as them doing posts, and then you start getting, they start going, oh, but I wish I had, you know, and you describe it, and you're going, okay, they want a landing page.
Yeah.
You know, oh, what they were really wanting is they want to do, you know, pages that have, you know, blocks of stuff.
Yeah.
So they don't know that's you know, the language.
That's a unique challenge. I mean, I think first of all, it would definitely be a plug-in solution so that people can change themes, stuff like that. You have to think about a plug-in solution that is not going to, it's not going to completely rely on a theme CSS. You know, you're going to allow, man, I mean, Gutenberg might be something you want to check out. The plugin that I mentioned earlier that we have at Press 75 might be something to check out too. It's called Long Form Story Builder.
Long form story builder?
It's focused on posts though. It's mainly built around like this method of giving people control of how to lay out a post in a unique way. But Aesop Story is something else you might want to check out because Aesop Story Engine is again kind of like a long form builder, like of this idea of building a post that has flexibility, but you could theoretically change themes, I think, right? I mean, like you use it.
Yeah, what we do is the Aesop Story and Global plugin is free. And then they sell premium themes that work with it, but you can code your own theme.
Yeah.
We bought an off-the-shelf theme and then realized we had to rip out the CSS and build it from scratch because it was spaghetti code underneath.
Yeah.
But we got this for our magazine to have that kind of snowball layout with text centered. And the nice thing about it is that Aesop is posts driven, not page driven. So it's really intended for the blogging portion to have fancy layouts, whereas a lot of page builders is the opposite. The posts have a rich template, and pages are where you get flexibility.
The Press 75 plugin too is free if you want to check it out. There's might work, Aesop Story might work, but I would look at tools like that, or even Google like long form story building tools or Aesop Story competitors, stuff like that. So you can kind of look.
That phrase long form.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I think that's it. If anybody wants to chat with me, we are sponsoring some of my tables out there. Love talking about this type of stuff. And again, I really appreciate it. I'll get my slides up there on that URL. Thank you guys.